Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous. That's the 2025 Mazda CX-5, but more specifically, it's an S Select. It starts around $30,000. It's in Mazda's most infamous color, while being Mazda's highest sold vehicle, the CX-5. The color is Soul Red Pearl. Looks really good in person. And I actually just used this vehicle to finish a comparison to the base model Subaru Forester to show you what you can get for about $30,000 in the Japanese market. And there's just a lot of good stuff going for this. And I think it might be Mazda's best-selling vehicle at $30,000 period across their lineup. First of all, though, huge thanks to Goody Motor Mazda for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link it below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP and they ship all over the country. Also, if you get anything out of this video, please consider liking this video, comment your thoughts and opinions below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, if you are new to my channel, this is just going to be kind of the full review, but a very short and quick version of it. Just before I go drop this off, I just wanted you guys to see a little bit more of what this has to offer because I don't always drive the S Select trim level every year. And this year, it's really surprising me with how good it is. First of all, this is a top safety pick. It has a lot of standard safety features. It has blind spot monitoring and turn signals on the mirror. It has really bright LED headlights. No fog lights on this one. Big front fascia, looks really good. You have a little recovery point right there. Big Mazda emblem. And then with the camera, it has adaptive cruise control. It doesn't have lane keep assist though. That is something you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for, but it does have a Yokohama Geolandar G91 all-season tire that has about 9/32 of tread depth and a very big rotor filling up most of the 17-inch wheel. It's a 225/65/17. And overall, this is just a really cool vehicle. These are still assembled in Japan, so the VIN number starts with a J. Then they're shipped overseas to America. There's almost 4 million CX-5s on the road around the world globally since this came out back in 2013. And then the second generation has kind of been hanging on for a long time because the first gen only came out in 2013 to about 2016. And then these came out in 2016 or 2017. So even though it's been refreshed, it still drives very well. It still feels very competitive to the new Rav4s, CRVs, Foresters, and everything else I've driven. But it does feel like it's an aging platform, at least to the owners who have these, because if you bought one of these 5 years ago, it's basically just a slightly refreshed version of the same vehicle. But let's hop inside and really show you where you're going to be spending a lot of your time and what you get at that price point. You get a really nice, basically leather-looking door cards, soft touch materials, handle, piano black, all the controls you need. This doesn't have the Bose speaker like where that triangle would be on the higher trim levels, but the speakers still sound decent for 30 grand. Nice door pocket for your bottle and your snacks. The all-weather mats are not yet installed, nothing on the door sill. Rubberized mats, pedals. It still has an old school release for the gas door and the hood. Not very many options on this low trim level, which starts at, again, about $30,000. LED lighting stock right there, ventilation, and then basically a leather looking heated seat with some power controls. It doesn't have all the controls. You can see the blank button there. But overall, it's a pretty nice place to be. No LED lighting on this one, but you do have some incandescent. It does have an 850-pound payload capacity. And then a non-turbo like this, I believe, can tow about 2,000 pounds. Turbo can tow about 3,500 pounds. So for being a unibody crossover, that's about right. Pretty competitive in the class. And then sitting inside here, you can do voice and volume on the left. You have the info button to go through that display. There's really not a lot to talk about there, though. You have your horn. It's actually fairly loud and fairly deep. Leather-wrapped wheel, non-heated. And again, no steering lane keep assist, but you do have adaptive cruise. You have the distance you want to set. And then it's very easy to engage with on or off. And then you set it or reset it. And then that's your screen. It's about 10 inches. Here is your reverse camera. Trajectory lines do not move, but the clarity is actually really good, surprisingly better than a lot of the competition. And then ventilation, start stop, because you even have proximity key features on this one. Heated seats, physical climate controls, nice big storage with a 12 volt. You have sport mode if you go up. You don't have off-road in this if you go down. And when you turn it up, the gauges don't turn red like they do on the higher trim levels. It just adds sport above the gear that you're currently in. And then you have this button to change the volume or to turn off the screen if you hold it down. Electronic parking brake, auto vehicle hold, and then music, home, navigation if it's equipped, the back button, and then whatever you want to set up with start. Some nice cup holders, which I like this more than the CX-50 because the CX-50 has them over here, so you can't fit a very tall drink before it starts to interfere with the dashboard. And then you have a lifty tray. You have some plugins, but not a ton of storage, but that probably is about average for this class of vehicle. So overall, it's actually a really nice place to be. At 5'11", I probably have 2 inches above my head. The rear view mirror goes right down the center. Sunglass holder, incandescent lighting like you saw earlier. This doesn't actually slide, it just has an extension piece. But it does have an incandescent light right there, so that's pretty cool. Otherwise, I think it's time to hop in the back. One of the trade-offs of this vehicle, because it can't be perfect, can't have everything for 30 grand, is a smaller back seat. This is a compact crossover, technically, just like the CX-50. So when we hop in the back, you're gonna notice there's a little bit less room back there than might be desirable. So if you're gonna drive around full-size adults all the time, you might wanna consider a bigger vehicle. But the door panel, basically the same theme and design language as the front. It looks really good, small pocket, it's kind of elevated and bellows out, which I kind of like. And then that's the seat. Again, it looks like a leather or leather synthetic. It actually can recline, not as much as like a Forester, but you can get just a couple degrees of inclination right there. And then sitting behind myself at 5'11", not a ton of room. When I got out of the Forester a few minutes ago, I had my whole wrist up to my watch of knee room, but I do have ventilation. It is tight enough in here, as you guys can see, that I can't actually lift the back seats. They're digging into the passenger seat from its larger passenger recline position, basically the way my backpack likes to sit. But you do have a fold down armrest, and you have some storage with some plugins right there. So it's a pretty nice setup, and it actually feels fairly solid. So the windows back here, again, kind of follow the theme of being a little bit smaller, but the headroom is adequate. I again have about that much room above my head. So I can't complain too much. It's a lot more spacious than like a subcompact car, like a Corolla or something, but it's not as spacious as a larger SUV, which for this being about a 15-foot long vehicle, you don't get everything, especially at 30 grand, but you get so much stuff, which again is why I'm making kind of this bonus video for you guys. Power liftgate not included. That's going to be a higher trim level, but it opens pretty high. So keep in mind, if you have an older house, a smaller garage, just make sure that that's not going to hit it, because unlike the power liftgate, you can't set the setting on it for the height you want. And then back here, you have about 29 cubic feet of room, which is actually pretty good for this size of vehicle. That's more than something like a CX-30 or a Subaru Crosstrek or a Honda HR-V. And you even have the handles to drop the seats, or even the middle seat, which I think is a pretty cool feature. Spare tire down here, no subwoofer, a little bit of extra storage. So if you guys are gonna hide something below, comment what that might be. And if you drop all the seats, you have, I think, about 56 cubic feet of room. So about 20 less than an Outback, about the same as a CX-50. And again, less by quite a bit, about 20 feet than a CR-V or a Toyota Rav4. But it's pretty easy to reach the handle and to throw it down. And if you come around to the passenger side, proximity key features again to lock and then lock the vehicle. Door panel is really nice. You're basically just missing a few of the electronic controls that only the driver gets. And then no power options, period, back here. You just have a bar to slide, handle to recline. It doesn't seem to be spring-loaded enough to lift it up how it's configured. But my backpack's having a good time. And honestly, this interior just looks really good. I don't always like dark black colors, but at least it looks really nice. Everything's gonna be easy to clean, and it's all soft touch. It's also no storage above the glove box or the transmission tunnel. It's also non-locking, but seriously, look at how big that handle is. That's kind of a big handle for a glove box. And the size of it is actually pretty decent. Ventilation blows really cold. Same thing on the A-pillars. So let's come around to the front, and I'll show you under the hood of this non-turbo example of the CX-5. These weigh about 3,300 to 3,900 pounds, depending on how they're configured, with how many luxurious electronic materials inside and the engine under the hood. And the hood is very heavy on this, so I think probably at least 50 pounds of this vehicle's weight comes just from the hood. But under the hood, it's fairly straightforward in that it's a 4-cylinder, 2.5-liter Skyactiv G engine with a 6-speed transmission. This one does not seem to have iStop, which is the start-stop technology. So either Mazda did away with that, or it's because of the supply chain issues, because some of their vehicles, especially the last couple of years, have been hit or miss on what features they include. Same thing with the cylinder deactivation, which for those of you who have avoided that, good for you, that's awesome, because those are not typically the best reliable systems in the long run, especially after once you're out of warranty. But overall, reservoirs are on the periphery, the battery, the fuse box, the intake runner side with the air induction on the front of the vehicle, exhaust side back there. It actually sits pretty high up in the engine. There's enough room on it that you can identify a lot of things because there's not a bunch of like chintzy, plasticky covers everywhere. I don't know how spark plugs and some of those maintenance items would be on here because there's not a ton of room, but you can at least identify everything, so that's a really good start for any maintenance. But these engines are so reliable. There's probably not really much stuff you're gonna have to do beyond the, the preventative stuff anyways. So let's drop the hood, take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 2025 Mazda CX-5 S Select. So I really like how these drive, I really like how they sound. Check out this full throttle acceleration. We might not be going very fast, but at least it sounds good, and I like the responsiveness of the 6-speed. It's not overly quick, but you know what you're getting, and it's not slow like an older transmission. Visibility on this, it's good enough. The visibility is not as good as a lot of the other competitors, but with the side mirrors being sporty looking and huge, you actually can see really well, and those do seem to be bigger than some of the competition to make up for the visibility difference. So basically this feels like a very sporty crossover. I really like how these drive, and I've been driving a lot of Mazdas in the most recent couple weeks. I like the infotainment screen, that it doesn't impede your vision or really distract you from the driving experience, and it's not going to age as poorly as a lot of the other ones. I like the leather wrapped wheel. I like that I have heated seats for 30 grand. I do think that these seats are comfortable. They don't hold you in very well, so if you take a corner too fast, don't expect them to keep you from sliding. The brakes work really well. I do have to, actually they're turning, so we can go around this corner. We can get back up to speed. Yeah, that pushed me back just a tiny bit, and then the power level drops off because 187 horsepower, it's only gonna get you so far, but even the bass speakers sound pretty decent. There's really not a lot of wind out today or structures outside like trees that I can show you that it's not that windy. So just take my word for it that the insulation, at least today, is pretty good. These G91 Yokohama tires, they don't seem to be kicking up any rocks on this country road. And with a Mazda all-wheel drive system, I think you're going to be in for a pretty good driving experience year-round. You do have to be careful with only about 7.5 inches of ground clearance and not the best approach into park triangles like a body-on-frame SUV, that you're careful if you pull off on the side of the road that you don't accidentally scrape your bumper. But most Mazda CX-5s, they stay on the road. They drive really well, and when I slow down and I just kind of guide it with the wheel, it just feels really sharp and direct, even though this isn't hydraulic steering, even though you don't get a lot of vibration through the wheel with the electronic aids that it has. It just feels like a really nice driving experience, and for $30,000, this is much more value than a lot of other vehicles I drive, especially for being a top safety pick. But let's do a 0 to 60 on the private road, and then we'll wrap it up with my final thoughts. 0 to 60 in the Mazda CX-5 S Select. I have it in sport mode. I'll do a little bit of a brake rev, but keep in mind density altitude puts us at 1 mile above sea level, so it is down on power probably 15 to 19%. Let's see what it can do. Really good first gear, and it sounds great. Alright, into third gear, and 0 to 60 came out at 9.57 seconds, or a little bit faster without the foot of rollout, the way that this would have been rated. My final thoughts of the 2025 Mazda CX-5 S Select is just like I started this video with. I think for 30 grand, this is a really good option. It includes most of the safety features you're gonna want, basically everything that you can actually expect to have or want to have at this price point, especially the LED headlights, knowing that the structural control and ability to absorb impact with the crumple zones of this does such a good job to protect you and your family, knowing that the screen is gonna age less poorly than a lot of the competition, knowing that if you're not regularly driving around backseat occupants that are full size, you're not gonna have to worry about the compact crossover size of this, knowing that it has a good Yokohama tire, a 17-inch wheel, a lot of sidewall, and a very sporty yet comfortable ride, means this is a really good vehicle, and a lot of people are gonna enjoy this. And with that said, if you guys got anything out of this video, please consider liking this video. If you appreciate the slightly shorter, more impromptu, one-take review of this vehicle more than my full reviews of it, please let me know in the comments. If you hated this video, please let me know that as well. This, I just didn't want to pass up, but I didn't have the time to do a full review of it today, but I know some of you guys are gonna appreciate this, at least I hope so. And if you want to buy it, or one like it, at a good discount, check out the Goody Motor Group. Otherwise, I wish you guys the best, hope to see you again, and until next time, take care.